I was ready to start teaching an environmental science course at Denison High School this semester. The environment is one of my greatest passions, and I was eager to share it with my students. Only I had no idea how I was going to do it. One of the objectives of our education class was learning what effective teaching practices were, and I had no idea what that looked like for a high school teacher. I knew what effective teaching practices looked in a college setting because that is what I've been exposed to for the past 4 years. I couldn't even remember how my teachers taught in high school. The first few days were terrible since I literally lectured for the entire time. It turned into a real snooze fest. It wasn't until I realized that the students were getting very just bored and tired and were very engaged in the subject. I somehow needed to get these students engaged and get them to think critically about environmental issues. I did so much work researching videos, articles, and activities that would engage my students. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, my students still looked bored and despondent. It wasn't until halfway into student teaching that I realized I wasn't thinking about executing my lessons from a backwards perspective. I knew that we had spent hours going over backwards design in class and how teachers should have an idea of what students would have learned as a result of the lesson. I spent hours upon hours creating lesson plans, but my work went all in vain since my students didn't understand the material. After I started listing the goals of my lesson to the students and posing the essential questions and the relevance of my lesson to the students, they were much more engaged and they were able to complete the task that I had given them. The strategies in the strategic teacher book really helped me to follow a plan. I know now that effective instruction means that teachers need to clearly define goals for the students and help the students figure out the steps towards that goal. It's what Sandy calls the steps to solution. If you give them the steps to solution, then the students will more likely take responsibility for achieving that goal. Through taking the necessary steps in achieving these goals, the students will become more engaged and find purpose in their education. This is great for a teacher who really wants his students to use their education to empower themselves and work towards building a better planet for future generations of learners.